Thank you, Denise. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, my friends of the panel, thank you to be here. For a so-called philosopher to try to give a portrait of the future of the Jewish people in a quarter of an hour will be also a hard task. I hope I will be able to achieve that. I will let aside, in order to do that, maybe the most difficult questions. The future of the Jewish people depends, first of all, on the fact that we remain Jewish in diaspora, in Israel, which is not quite evident, which has never been quite evident. Already in the 20s, you had a very famous debate between Gershom Scholem and Franz Rosenzweig, the first one going to Israel, the second one remaining in diaspora, and wondering, the two of them, which was the best way to remain Jewish in a world which was organized in order to eradicate spiritualism, Judaism. So, not an easy task, but it will have to be fulfilled. In order to have a future, the Jewish people will have to achieve an agreement with the Arab world in general and the Palestinian people in particular. These two, I will keep it aside, also because I would subscribe, I would sign word for word what my friend Amos Oz just said. Nothing to add. So let's lose our precious time, Mr. Director of the panel, Moderator of the panel. I let aside also a third task, which will have to be the fight against anti-Semitism, which will be a difficult task too. Anti-Semitism has changed its form. It's like a virus which is in a process of mutation. I expressed recently in New York City the theory according to which the new one which we'll have to face is based on three pillars, which is the anti-Zionism, the denial of Holocaust, and the competition of victimhood, the three of them articulated together, being able, again, if the articulation is done, to throw fire inside the minds of simple people. I will keep this aside. I'm sure that we will overcome this danger. And moreover, as a great Jew, Yehuda Magnes, an American Jew who went in Israel and who was one of the founders of the Hebraic University of Jerusalem, the Jewish people did not come on earth, was not elected in order to fight anti-Semitism, not even in order to fight against its enemies. The Jewish people has come, said Yehuda Magnes, in order to deliver a specific message, not only to Jews, but to non-Jews also, and to humanity in general. So I would like in a few words to say what should be in this future the message that we Jews have to deliver to the rest of the nations. My opinion is that this message is based on the very special experience we Jews have on the three levels of politics, morals, and spirituality. Politically speaking, I'm evoking, of course, this miracle which we are paying homage to today, since yesterday, since the great speech of President Shimon Peres and my friend Elie Wiesel, State of Israel. I know that there is a debate here and outside about the achievement of the Zionism, the failure of Zionism, the out of breath of Zionism. I don't know. This for me is an abstract discussion. What I know is that if you compare Israel to all the states which went out of the process of decolonization of the former British and French empires, all the nations who stepped out of this process, I don't see anyone else than Israel which can add today prosperity, democracy, and when it uses force, force always linked to moral consideration. There can be terrible mistakes, of course. Headquarters are never perfect. But I was on the front line of the last Lebanon war with some of your special units, and I can bear testimony of that. I don't know any other new country where the use of force is constantly, systematically linked to moral concern and consideration. Beyond that, if you compare Israel not only to the other decolonized country, but to the Western world, to our countries, Dr. Kissinger, to yours and to mine, America and France, and Europe. I always say, often say that I am a European of French origin. Again, do you know so many countries where the democratic debate is so vibrant, vivid, and sometimes harsh? Do you know one more open society than this society which welcomes people coming from Russia, from Africa, from Arab world, from all over the world? Do you know any other country which solved the most insolvable problem in our countries, which is the mix, the articulation between, let's say, ethnicity and citizenship? It is the biggest problem in America. It was in the 60s, 70s. It is our biggest problem in France and in Europe today, how to combine root, origin, and abstract citizenship. I know a country where this problem, more or less, of course, more or less, has found a solution which is here. So there is a political lesson of the Jewish people established in Israel, which began long time ago, since the prophet Samuel to the President Shimon Peres, and which is the one I just said. The second experience we have to deliver to the world is our special experience of suffering. I often hear again, in Israel and outside Israel, that Jews comment too much Holocaust, that they speak too often about Holocaust. Please, I happen to be a rather good and frequent traveler. I went to many countries all over the world. The places where I heard most quoting Holocaust is not France, is not America, is not Israel. It is Sarajevo under siege and under attack when the Muslim president of Bosnia, in his bombed palace, delivered to me a message to be given to President Mitterrand, where he said, please don't let us become the new ghetto of Warsaw. I heard the word Holocaust all days, every day, when I went in Rwanda, unfortunately, after the genocide. And when I went in Burundi before or during the cooking, smooth genocide which could be on, and I heard so many Tutsis speaking to me about Shoah, Holocaust, we must not be the new victims of a new Holocaust. I heard Shoah much more than in Israel and in France. Recently in Darfur, when I smuggled myself through the border between Chad and Darfur with a unit of young, resistant, and guerrilla commanders, learned, clever, smart, who told me, we are experiencing, right or wrong, a new genocide. We cannot be, you cannot let us become the victims of a new genocide. What I want to say by this,